Hello, everyone, and welcome to the National Black MBA Association's Wednesdays webinar series. Thank you for joining us. Now, before we get started, I would like to take a moment to acquaint you with a few features of this web event technology. At any time, you may adjust your audio using any computer volume settings. On the right-hand side of your screen, you see a Q&A window. To submit a question, type your question in the small text box at the bottom. When you're finished, click the send button. You may do this at any time during our program today. All questions that you submit are only seen by our presenters, and questions will be responded to near the end of our presentation or perhaps along the way. However, please note that due to time constraints, our speakers may not respond to all the questions submitted. And at this time, it's my pleasure, I would like to introduce our speaker, Monica McCoy. Monica McCoy is a highly sought-after global speaker, business strategist, executive coach, and consultant who was among 50 global women leaders who received the prestigious Women's Economic Forum 2017 Iconic Women Creating a Better World for All Award in New Delhi, India. As founder of Monica Motivates LLC, she provides coaching, speaking, and consulting services that helps women transition from being mere spectators to pursuing their dreams and becoming active participants in having fulfilling, successful personal and professional lives. Monica founded Pitch University, comprehensive and interactive workshop featuring strategies and tactics shared by current and former executives of major multinational companies to help women founders effectively prepare to access venture capital funding. Monica is an author who has released and written 2 books, Treating Your Brand Like a Fortune 100 Company, and her first book, The Best Life Lessons Learned from Real People. Monica, with that, I'd like to welcome you to the program and turn this audience over to you now.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today on the National Black MBA Association January webinar. So as Mike stated, my name is Monica McCoy, and I am so incredibly excited to be with each of you today to talk about a critical topic of treating your brand like a Fortune 100 company. And before we get started, I want to just do a brief overview as to why I started this topic and why I feel like it's so critical for professionals to really master this concept. So I spent 15 years in corporate America, and I ended my career as a global director of strategy and innovation for a major Fortune 50 company here in Atlanta, Georgia. And one of the things that I noticed is that individuals were not spending a lot of time actually working on their career. Instead, they were just working in their career, which trickled down to them not working on their brand. And so year over year, I observed patterns for those who were actually successfully managing their career and having success with getting promotions and receiving assignments that were increasing visibility, and those who were unfortunately being left behind and not considered for opportunities. So today I'm going to take you through 4 critical strategies that if you implement this year, will definitely have an impact on your career success for 2019. So why treat your brand like a Fortune 100 company? Everyone has at one time or another looked at the Fortune 100 list to see the top 100 companies. And what we know about these companies is that they spend billions of dollars to really make sure that their brand is standing out as one of the top brands and also that they have brand equity. What we also know is that these companies really take time to do focus groups, to make sure that they are, making themselves available for media interviews, and also making sure that they understand what their consumers are looking at when it comes to their brand presence. And what I wanted to do with treating your brand like a Fortune 100 company was really say, imagine if you, as an employee of a Fortune 500 company, took time to treat your brand like a Fortune 100 company. Many of us spend, unfortunately, more time planning our vacations than we do with preparing to really think about the strategy for our careers each year and the strategy for our brands. And what we're going to do today is take time to break down what are those 4 things that can really help your results look different from 2018 compared to what you want to implement for 2019. So there are 4 critical points that I'm going to be going through today. And if you have any questions, as Mike said, please type them in the chat box. But also, we will be leaving time at the end of the presentation to go through questions. So if there's anything that's just burning that we want to address, we definitely are going to address those at the end of the presentation today. So I want you to think about, how you enjoyed your holiday break and coming back into the office at the beginning of the year and going back to your desk and saying, okay, it's new year, new me. I'm going to have a fabulous 2019. This is going to be my year to really go out there and crush my goals. I'm going to really get that promotion that I've been aiming for. This is going to be my year. Well, unfortunately, the data says that 2 out of 3 of us are not engaged with the work that we're doing. So if you look around your office, if you're currently in your office right now listening in, 2 out of 3 people that you're working with are not currently engaged with the work they're doing. And what we're finding is that it's not that individuals do not want to be engaged with their work, but many individuals, unfortunately, are not aware of what do I really want to do for my career? What is my business plan? So corporations put together 2 plans at the beginning of the year. One is their annual business plan, and that's their plan for the current year, and the other is their strategic business plan, which is their 3-year trajectory. What I challenge each of you to do is I want you to start making sure that at the beginning of the year, you put together your own annual business plan. And what that is going to really do is say, what are the critical steps that I need to take month over month to really get to that next promotion? What are the steps that I need to take to make sure that my brand has visibility among the influencers in the organization? Because unfortunately, many of us are going through day in and day out, and we're exchanging our time for money. We're not actively looking forward to going to work each day. We're taking the time that we should be working on our annual business plan, strategic business plan, and just counting down until 5 o'clock. And what I challenge each of us to do is to learn that you do not have to continue exchanging your time for money, but instead I want you to actually figure out what are you passionate about and what do you feel is your authentic purpose, so that you can have success, whether you're an employee, an entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur. What is it that is going to drive you to want to get up and do the work day in and day out without feeling like you're just exchanging your time for money and working a job that is not going to lead to long-term success? So the first thing that I challenge each of us to do is to say, what is your vision? What is the vision that you have for your career? And many of us around this time of year, we take time and we do vision boards. I want you to map out your vision in 5 critical areas. The first area I want you to map out is I want you to think about what is the vision for, and there are my 5 F's that I want you to map out your vision for. I want you to map out what is the vision for your fitness goals this year, because it's critical that you not only are mapping out what you want your brand to do from a career perspective, but making sure that you also are mentally and physically healthy to go ahead and execute against these goals. Next, what are your goals from a family and friends perspective? You want to make sure that you have people around you who truly have your best interests at heart, and we're going to go through that a little later on in greater detail. The next F is, what are your fortune goals? So that is, what are your career goals? So map out what are those things that you want to succeed in your professional career. And then the next F is, what are your finance goals? So make sure that you're actively working on, things that are actually leading to you achieving your finance goals. And then the final F is, what are you going to do for fun? Because if you're going and you're spending 60% of your week in a place that you're not happy in, then you really want to reassess, what are you doing day to day and how are you really leveling up to making sure that you're living a fulfilled life. So many people ask me, Monica, I literally don't know what I want to do. Monica, I haven't thought about this since my childhood. It's been since I was in third grade that I actually had a dream of what I wanted to really do with my life. So before we go into this second step, I want each of you to take a moment to think back to your childhood. I want you to question that 8-year-old version of yourself. And I want you to really think about what was it that you wanted to do with your life when you were a child? What was that dream? So I'll quickly share my story. When I was 8 years old, I wanted to be a cardiologist. And so I literally went through elementary, middle, high school, wanting to be a cardiologist. So I told my mom, I told my teachers, I told anyone who would listen to me that I'm going to be a cardiologist and go and do heart surgery and save people's lives. Well, unfortunately, my sophomore year of college at Emory University, I discovered that I had a fear of blood. Yes, y'all, I had a fear of blood. And so literally what I had to do was quickly pivot and quickly understand, okay, what can I do that's still going to be impactful and still save lives and still make a difference? And so that's where Monica Motivates was birthed from, because I wanted to do something that was really going to make an impact on people's lives, both personally and professionally. So your story, of course, is going to be different from mine, but back when you were 8 or 9 years old, what is it that you wanted to do with your life? And if you're still saying, well, Monica, I wanted to be a football player back then, or I wanted to be a jazz player back then, so I don't know how that applies to today. What I challenge you to do is to actually do a personality assessment. And so the reason that I'm having you to do this personality assessment is because before you can really start deciding where your career trajectory is going to go, how you're going to take your career and your brand to the next level this year, it's critical that you first understand who you are. And not only that you understand who you are, what is your personality type, but you're going to have to learn how to understand the personality types of those who are around you, those that you're working with day in and day out. So what I'm going to highly recommend that each of you do is to take a personality assessment at 16personalities.com, and this is going to be a free personality assessment that you can do to get the year started off with, to really understand what is your personality. So just a quick overview. If we think about it, there are 16 different personality types, and your personality defines your brand in a way that really shapes your foundation for your brand. And many of us really don't understand that if we can take the time not only to know what our personality type is, but to also understand the personality types of the stakeholders that can really help to advance our careers and to be strategic partners for us on this journey, it will take us a long way. So I'm going to literally go through this very briefly, what the letters stand for, and really challenge you at the end of this to take the personality assessment. It literally takes 10 minutes or so to take it, but it will literally be very game-changing for you. So the first letter of your personality type, which really shows up with people's brands immediately, is whether you are an extrovert or whether you're an introvert. And many people, unfortunately, stereotype these letters to mean that if you're an extrovert, you like to be the life of the party, and if you're introverted, it means that you're extremely shy. Well, that is actually not the case at all. I mean, if you're an extrovert, you really are sourcing your energy externally, and that means that you like to be around people. You like to source your energy in social situations. And if you're an introvert, it just means that you source your energy internally. So you go deep inside. So there can be a party going on inside and no one know about it, but it's just saying that you source your energy internally. Now, how do you take in information? So we have individuals who they are sensors. They use their sixth sense and they can sense what's going on. They can go in a room and immediately know if the energy is off. They can also go in a room and know if it's just great energy going on. Or it's that person who is the intuitive person where their intuition leads them with how they take in information. So they quickly can use their gut to say if something is really feeling like it's making sense to them, or if they feel like someone is just sort of, trying to get over on them. And then what is your lifestyle preference? So are you a perceiver or are you a judger? How are you really going with a preference perspective with, are you more perceptive with the way that you're taking in your preferences, or immediately when you see someone within 2 to 3 seconds, you have judged them, you know exactly what your thoughts are about that individual, and you have sized them up in 2 to 3 seconds. And please know that none of these are right or wrong. Each of us just over-indexes to one or the other. And then finally, how do we make decisions? So are you a thinker or are you a feeler? A thinker is someone who leads with logic. So they want to get to the point. They don't need to understand, the vision or all the big picture stuff. They want you to get to the point as quickly as possible. So when you meet with these individuals, you want to make sure that you are very buttoned up and that you come in there prepared with your data and really getting to the point in a quick manner. Whereas with a feeler, if you go in there and you start trying to literally get to the point immediately, that person's going to shut down on you because they first want to understand that you care. And so how is this tied to treating your brand like a Fortune 100 company? Because you have to know your audience. In addition to knowing yourself, you have to know your audience. I want you to think about all of the advertising that Fortune 100 companies spend to really get the attention of their consumers. They do countless tests on who is the avatar for their target audience, and they nail that down to creating commercials, to creating digital engagement, social media presence that truly is interacting with their target audience. So if you're going to say that, Monica, this is my year, I'm going to really go in and I'm going to get that promotion, start assessing who are the individuals in the organization who you need to start aligning yourself with more, who you need to make sure that you're going to lunch with, who you need to have 15-minute check-ins with. Before you go to those meetings, make sure you understand the personality type of those individuals. Because if you come in to someone who has an INTP personality, where they're introverted, they're intuitive, they're a thinker and a perceiver, and you go in there and you want to talk high-level vision for 30 minutes, that person is going to check out on you within the first 2 minutes. They are going to say, absolutely, I'm not closing the deal with you because you're out here talking about the vision and I want to understand the data. So there's obviously a huge disconnect here. And it's the same as if you're going in and you're speaking to a leader who really, as you observe this person, they're visionary. They really go and they get to know the employees. They want to know how employees are feeling. They want to understand what's the tone of the organization. So let's just say you're dealing with an ENFP. That person is extroverted, intuitive, a feeler, and a perceiver. So if you go into this with this meeting and you're just talking about, the category growth for the past 3 years, you're talking data only, everything is about business results, then that person also has checked out on you because they're not feeling like you care, like you are taking time to really understand why should they do business with you? Why should they take time to advocate for you? you really have to make sure you know your audience. And I'll share a personal story here is that when I was in corporate America and I was a global director of strategy and innovation, one of the things that was always really disappointing was when we would have someone come and present to the senior leadership team who had not studied their audience at all. And so they would come in presenting stuff that was totally irrelevant to the audience, and the audience was on their cell phones, was checking email, was doing everything but paying attention to their presentation. And the reason for this is because that individual didn't do their homework. And so the brand equity that you lose when you do not understand your audience is huge. So not only do I want you to take time to take the personality assessment for yourself, but I want you to also, ask your direct manager, ask your team, ask the people that you work with if they would also mind taking the assessment with you so that you all can make sure that you're having strategic, effective working relationships. So the next thing that is one of the most critical things that you can do with managing your brand effectively this year is to examine who's in your inner circle. Every corporation has what's called a board of directors. And on this board of directors, individuals are on that board for strategic reasons. Individuals may bring financial acumen to the board. They may bring strategic expertise. They may bring operational experience, but everyone is strategically selected for that board. Here's what I want each of you to know. If your inner circle looks the exact same as it's looked over the past 5 years, and you are not satisfied with the results from a brand perspective of how your brand is being perceived in corporate America and how you are climbing up the corporate ladder, I challenge you to truly think about reassessing your inner circle. Because one of the things, this is an unspoken rule of corporate America, if you do not have a healthy inner circle, you will literally not go very far. And no one's going to come out and say, oh, Monica, your inner circle is not healthy. So the people that you're surrounding yourself with, those individuals are not the people you should be surrounding yourself with if you're trying to get to that next level of being a director of strategy, or if you're trying to get to that VP of marketing position. What I want each of you to do is to think about who are the 5 people that you're spending the most time with. I want for your homework for you to write down those 5 individuals. And I want you to think about how are those individuals contributing to your brand equity. So when you write them down, I want you to put a letter by each of them. The letter is either going to be a G, a M, or a T. So there's this great work out by Adam Grant, this research that he did called Give and Take. And what he found in this research is that, unfortunately, most people in the workplace are matchers or takers. And only 1 in 4 people that you're working with are true givers. So I want you to think about who you're surrounding yourself with and what type of energy they're giving. So I'm going to define each one for you. So the matcher in the workplace. So if any of my accountants are on the line, then I hope that you don't get mad at me for my example here. But literally, they are always keeping a balance sheet on you. They are always looking at the debits and credits. So they're always doing this reconciliation in their head to say, okay, Bob, I just helped you out last week, so you are in the red with me. Bob, don't you dare ask me for a favor until you do something for me. And until we're back where we're even again, where you're not in the red with me, I'm not helping you out again. Or it's the other way around where it's like, well, Bach helped me out last week, so I'm in the red with him. So I owe him a favor to restore the equilibrium again. This is literally how most corporate employees operate when it comes to assessing whether they're going to help people out or not. And this is why we have a lot of organizations that are underperforming, is because people are always concerned about, okay, I already helped this person out, so they owe me, and I'm not helping them again until they pay me back. What I would really challenge you to do is to think about the people in your circle who fit that criteria. Write an M by their name. So you just wrote down the 5 people in your inner circle, so put an M by those individuals. The next person I'm going to describe is the taker. So the taker is very strategic. The taker a lot of times disguises themselves as someone who really wants to help you. But the taker is like a leech. They come and they find a host site and they say, oh, this person has great brand equity, so I'm just going to keep on, sucking the life out of them until I can go and find someone else to take from. So takers literally find givers to latch on to really help propel their career to the next level. These people are toxic, and you've observed them in your workplace. These individuals get promoted really quickly because they are literally using everyone. So they strategically find a way to go and use until they propel themselves to the top. And I'll come back to takers to tell you what ultimately happens with them. And then the final group are the givers. So the givers are the minority in both just America in general, and also they're the minority in the workplace. So the givers are those individuals who are going to say, Monica, I got your back. If I can help you, please let me know. I really want us all to win. I want the organization to win. I want you to win. They're just really good people who, at the core, want both the organization to win, want the team to win, and they want you to win. The unfortunate thing with some givers is that some givers do not practice self-care. So givers end up either propelling themselves to the top or, unfortunately, falling at the very bottom of organizations. The givers who fall at the bottom of organizations is because, unfortunately, they have not managed their brand effectively, and they've let a lot of takers and matchers really just leech onto them, and they haven't practiced self-care. Now, the givers who ultimately finish at the top are those who they give, but they also take care of themselves. And they literally can recognize when someone is trying to take advantage of them, and they remove those individuals from their inner circle. So the matchers are the ones who are going to finish in the middle of the organization. You guys might say, well, Monica, why do matchers finish in the middle of the organization? Well, the reason why matchers don't finish at the top or at the bottom is because they do enough to make sure that they're always looking out for themselves and making sure that, they're also having this healthy equilibrium. But because they're so concerned about debits and credits and making sure that everything is always balanced, they end up missing out on opportunities that others can clearly identify because they're too concerned about, oh, that person has a debit with me, so I'm not going to do that, even if it's a great opportunity for their brand. Now, you may say, well, Monica, get back to the takers. Like, what ultimately goes on with the takers? So the takers are going to be those individuals who have short-term success. They are going to fly through the org chart. You're going to see them have rapid promotion after promotion after promotion. But what happens with the takers is that ultimately they get to the top of the organization, and then they end up taking from the wrong person and literally falling back down. And unfortunately, when they come falling down, there's no one to help pick them up because they've burned so many bridges. And so what you see with these individuals is that they end up exiting the organization and then going to another organization and doing the same toxic behavior over again. So when you see people who literally are hopping and rising up and falling down, many times it's because it's just this I mentality that they have, where they're constantly taking care of themselves and not looking out for the greater strength of the organization. So here is my other homework for you today. What group are you in? If people had to define your brand today and they had to say, I think this person are they a giver? Are they a matcher, or are they a taker? So I want you to go inward, and I want you to think about, what is your brand communicating? Are you someone who people are perceiving as someone who they want to stay in the organization and want to continue to help advance their career? Or do they see as someone who literally has just I am going to win at all costs, burn bridges, ruin relationships, and don't really care about the long-term strength of the organization because it's all about me, and I'm going to take my way to the top and don't care about all the burnt bridges that are left behind? I want you to do an analysis of your circle and see who you're spending the majority of your time with. What the research shows us is that one of the leading derailers of our brand equity is that we end up spending 20% of our time with the givers in our circle, and we end up spending 80% of our time with the takers, because you're always trying to prove yourself to the taker. You're always trying to prove why you're good enough and why you should be up for that next promotion and why, you belong in the circle. So do that analysis this week, because you don't want to keep maintaining that circle if it's not one that is going to really help propel you to where you need to go this year professionally. And yes, it's comfortable being around individuals where it's the water cooler conversations and everyone can go to the lunchroom and have conversations about the latest trends that are going on that people aren't excited about. But I'll tell you, if you get uncomfortable and start having a circle of people that are actually pushing you to grow and pushing you both personally and professionally, what you'll find is that your brand equity for the last 3 years versus your brand equity for 2019 will look much different, and you'll see that return on your investment pretty immediately. But if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, then we know that phrase, it's like it's going to be the same results that we see in 2019. Now, the topic that I'm actually going to spend the majority of my remaining time on is pie. And if you will master this concept, you literally will separate yourself from the masses. And unfortunately, many people don't talk about the concept of pie. And it's one that I learned early on in my career. And I mastered it effectively because I realized that if I was going to be in corporate America, that I was going to have to actually leverage this strategy to continue to take my career where I wanted it to go. And what I would say is that if you have not heard of this, I don't want you to be alarmed, because there are many people who have not heard of the concept of pie. But if you've heard of it and you're not actively using it, I want you to make 2019 that year that you actually start building your strategy and implementing this with your career. So why should I care about my pie, Monica? Who cares? Like, I go in, I do a good job, I go home, I'm good, Monica. Like, why should I care? I'm doing a good job. Like, I'm delivering results for the organization. They're paying me to do X, Y, and Z, and Monica, I'm delivering on it. So what do you mean that I need to care about this thing called pie? Well, Harvey Coleman did an amazing job with a book that he wrote called Empowering Yourself, The Organizational Game Revealed, and really breaking down PIE. But unfortunately, it's this sort of secret in corporate America that people who know it, they sort of keep it to themselves. And then you sort of say, well, how is that individual, able to continually, get to the next level and have this success? Well, what they're doing is that they realize that they can't just be a good performer. They can't just come in and day out and do a good job, but they also have to make sure that they have these other elements of the PIE balance, the image and the exposure. And so what happens is that the performer is the person who works in their career. They are constantly at their desk. They don't take lunch breaks. They are at their desk from the time they walk in to the time they leave for the day. And this individual is truly what is called a worker bee. So the worker bee is literally someone who is always going to get the work done. The team can rely on that individual. They're a great team player. And the worker bee literally is just someone who is always to be commended because they work very hard. And what the worker bee wants is to be recognized and to be said, and for someone to approach them and say, well, we're going to give you this promotion because you're such a hard worker. And unfortunately, the performer just becomes frustrated year in and year out because they're constantly looked over. They're constantly receiving that average rating in their year-end review of like, yep, Joanne, you did a great job. We appreciate your contribution to the organization. Great job, Joanne. Here's another gold star for you for the year for your great performance. But these people are not, unfortunately, viewed as leaders. They're viewed as worker bees. They're viewed as tactical individuals who can get the job done. And so then you go to, okay, what is my image communicating? How do I show up? What is my power presence? What are the 3 words that people say when they see me walk in a room? If people had to describe my brand in 3 words, what would they say? And then finally, exposure. How is your work being seen in the organization? So let's break these down. So the worker bee is someone who they consistently are delivering results, but they are going to have to understand that no one's going to come and say, we're going to just take your career to the next level. You have to make sure that you are not only doing great work, but you have to make sure that the organization knows about that great work. So if you find yourself being that worker bee, I want to tell you that unfortunately, most individuals in corporate America manage their career where they over-index just with performance. And what the research has shown is that performance contributes to 10% of your long-term success. And what happens is that individuals end up, after 5 to 10 years of being overlooked, they end up being not engaged with their work anymore. They're not engaged with the company. And then we end up seeing the Gallup data that I shared earlier, that 2 out of 3 employees are no longer engaged with their work that they're doing. And on average, corporations are only receiving 4 hours of working time per day from employees who are not engaged. So imagine if you were throwing away 50% of your paycheck, every paycheck that you receive, that it just disappears before you even touch it. It's just gone. That's what's happening to corporations today, is that 50% of the time that they have hired is disappearing on them because they have employees who literally are just like, you know what, I'm over it. I've been performing well and I'm not getting the promotion, so I'm just going to do the bare minimum to get by. You don't want to manage your brand like that. What I really suggest that you do is to start understanding, how do your results tie to the organization? And then if you have not had a chance to pick up your company's annual business report or sit down with the leaders of your team to really understand, what are the strategic pillars for the organization, and how is your job making a difference? Because then what you can start doing is stewarding to the organization how the work that you're doing is driving the bottom line. Because what we know is that only 1 in 10 employees understand the strategy of the organization that they're working for. So 10% of employees actually understand the strategy. And when it comes to employees who are really opening up the annual business report, the data is showing that most employees have not opened up the annual business report since they've been working for the company. And if you open up that annual business report and just read the chairman's remarks, that will definitely give you a quick assessment for what are the strategic pillars for that company, what has gone well, and what are some of the opportunities. Now, when it comes to your image, this is another homework assignment. Image contributes to 30% of your success. If you show up every day and you are, just looking tired, a little disheveled, you always are late, you never show up to meetings on time, you're late with deliverables, what is your image conveying? So what you're going to do as part of your homework is you're going to poll some of your colleagues, and they can be current colleagues, they can be former colleagues, but you want to poll people who are really going to give you some real feedback. So don't include your mom or your dad, or your wife in this assessment, or husband. Really include people who are going to give you that real feedback that you need to understand and hear. And so with that, I want you to get those 3 words, and I want you to write down what 3 words you think describe your brand, and then see if there's a brand misalignment between what people are saying about your brand and what you think your brand is communicating. Because quite frankly, when people are having conversations about who should be up for the next promotion, image is contributing to that conversation. So if you are not bringing that rock star image to the workplace and showing up with your power presence and ready to go, then you really, unfortunately, are going to be left behind when it comes to those next opportunities. So if you're struggling in this area, invest in yourself. Hire a stylist to do a wardrobe overhaul. And people think, oh, Monica, this just costs so much money. And it is an investment, but you can literally go to your local department store. There's so many online services now that make this so cost effective, where you can really do a brand overhaul in a very efficient way. And also think about investing in an executive coach. You need someone who's going to be very real and transparent with you and tell you that your brand is misaligned with that next role that you're going for, that next opportunity that you're going for. So have someone who's going to be very realistic with you, as opposed to people who are just saying what you want to hear. So you may be like, okay, Monica, what is the thing that contributes to the most of my success? What is it that literally is going to take my brand to the next level? It is exposure. So we've talked about so far with performance, being the worker bee, image, bringing that rock star image to the table, but then exposure. So if no one knows about the work that you're doing, unfortunately, people are not going to give you credit for the work that you're doing. And here's a scenario that plays out repeatedly in corporate America. So what we find is that individuals will be so excited about the work they're working on, and they'll pass it off to the person who's going to present it to the executive leadership team. And what happens is that the individual ends up not getting credit for the work. And what happens with the individual not getting credit for the work is that no one ever recognizes that, oh my gosh, that was actually Andrew who did the work, and that wasn't Monica who did the work. But because Monica came in and delivered a rock star presentation with Andrew's work, we're going to give Monica the promotion because she literally is the one who's looking good to the organization. So this happens time and time again, and you have to make sure that you are stewarding your work on a regular basis so that individuals can understand who's doing those great Excel spreadsheets, who's doing those great PowerPoint presentations, who's bringing all that great thought leadership to the organization. Because ultimately, if you're really just perceived as the one who's just the worker bee and not the one who's capable of bringing thought leadership to the table, then unfortunately it's going to be perceived that you're not ready for the next opportunity. So here's some simple things that you can do to gain additional exposure. LinkedIn is a powerful platform that I recommend that you engage with on a regular basis. I know that we like so many other social media platforms, but when it comes to your professional expertise, you want to start posting articles on a weekly basis on topics that you are a subject matter expert or SME on. You want to start posting those articles because what will happen is that individuals will start sharing your articles, and ultimately you'll be asked to come and speak at different events, or you'll be asked for your opinion on an article that's being written for a news publication. This is how you gain credibility both inside your organization and outside your organization. And it doesn't have to be like this book that you're writing. It could literally be 100 to 200 word article, quick, easy, some quick bullets that really tell the story. Next, I want you to master the art of the pitch. So many people are like, Monica, oh my gosh, I can't stand the word pitch. What are you talking about with pitching? Well, you want to be able to tell your story in 30 seconds or less. You want to be able to tell exactly what you're doing, how it ties to the organization's success, and how you see this really contributing to future things in the organization. You want to be able to tell that in a minute or less and really have it down to succinct data points. And then finally, make sure that you're not just sitting at your desk 5 days a week. It's so disappointing when I see individuals who haven't taken a lunch break in months and they eat lunch at their desk by themselves every day. And I'm not saying that, you should just, be away from your desk all the time and just always networking. But there has to be a healthy balance, because if the research has shown that 60% of your success is contributed to exposure, then you want to make sure that people know about your brand. So start dining with some of the influencers in your organization. Start dining with some industry experts and also mentors and sponsors who can really be strategic partners to elevate your career to the level that you're trying to take it to when you identify that and what we discussed earlier in your annual business plan. So it's critical that, those things are not left on the table, because when you maximize this pie and when you have it where it's 10% performance, making sure, yes, you're always delivering consistent results, 30% image, making sure you're showing up with your power presence and always looking like you are ready for that opportunity and that you can go and get on stage and deliver a presentation if you're called on to go do it that day. And then also that people are knowing that Ashley is the one who is going out and doing great work. So we only had an hour together today, and I want to save some time for questions and the Q&A part of the presentation today. But if you're interested in ordering the book, my website for the book is treatyourbrandlikeafortune100company.com. And then if you're like, okay, Monica, treatyourbrandlikeafortune100company.com, that's a lot to remember. Well, there's a resource guide that will be shared with you with this information. But in addition to that, you can find all this information on my website, monicamotivates.com. If you have any questions or would like some additional resources and things that our team has, definitely reach out to us. My email I'm giving to each of you is monica@monica-motivates.com. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. And I see some questions currently in the box for us now. So I'm going to go ahead and read the first one. So how can I, as an unemployed graduate, increase my own brand? While this is an early question, I feel maybe this is for employees. So this is a great question, and for the person who submitted this really is something that I really want you to focus on, going out and increasing your exposure. So as an unemployed graduate, what you don't want to do is just sit behind a computer screen at home every day. What you want to do is take advantage of going to networking events. You also want to make sure that you're taking advantage of the last thing that I just shared about exposure, is to start writing articles on LinkedIn. I want you to start becoming an industry expert on some of the things that you're a subject matter expert in. Share your knowledge out there, because what you'll find is that people will start being like, oh, I need someone in my organization who's an expert in that particular topic that you keep writing about every week. So let's bring you in for 30 minutes to see if this is going to be a good fit. There's so many natural and authentic connections that happen when you start showing your expertise and showing up with an online presence. In addition to that, what I recommend that you do is to examine your inner circle. You want to put some people on your board of directors who literally are influencers in the industry that you're trying to gain employment in, because those individuals can advocate for you both inside their organization and also outside from a broader industry perspective. Okay, and so the next question, can the address for the personality quiz be repeated? Yes, so it's 16personalities.com. So the number 1, the number 6, and the word personalities, personalities.com. And if someone on the team could please type that in the box for individuals also, that would be really good. If someone could please type that in so that everyone can see that. All right, so the next question is, how do you tie your work to the organization if the organization does not have a strategic plan? That is a great question. And so here's what I would say. If the organization does not have what is defined as a strategic plan, it means that this organization is probably more of a tactical organization. So this is where what I really stress to individuals is that you have to make sure that you are just not someone who is leading yourself, but you also can manage upwards. So you want to make sure that you're understanding what are the 3 main focus areas with the tactics that your organization is doing. And I want you to help solidify what are those 3 main things that your organization is focusing on. So many organizations have a strategy, but they just are not calling it a strategy because they're operating it from a very tactical perspective. And what I would say is that if you're working for an organization like that, you really want to take some of the information from today's session and say, you know, I sat in on this webinar today, and I really think our organization should put together a solid strategy. And with this solid strategy, it's going to allow you to, one, feel more comfortable with the organization that you're working for, that you guys are actually working towards a North Star, but also it's going to allow you not to become disengaged, because what we see is that a lot of times individuals quit because they are just lost when it comes to their engagement. They're lost when it comes to what does their work really matter. Many times they feel like they're just shuffling papers and not really contributing to the bottom line. So great question for the individual who asked that question. All right, so I have a lot more questions, and we have 7 minutes, so I'm going to try to get through these last ones really quickly. So let me go to the next one. How long do you think this overhaul will take? Suppose I am starting from ground zero. That is a great question for the person who asked that question, and literally it can take as long or as little as you want it to take. One thing that I would say is that the shortest amount of time will probably be 90 days, And the longest amount of time, if you're effectively working your plan, will be a full calendar year. If you're very intentional with this being your one thing for your 90-day strategic plan, then you are going to see that you will have really sustained results. So you have to go ahead and make sure that you break that annual business plan down into a 90-day plan so that you can go ahead and do that brand overhaul. Because quite frankly, when you're starting from ground zero, you want to go ahead and get laser focused on those items that are going to have the greatest impact for you, are the ones that you want to start with. All right, so I'm going through the questions as quickly as I can. So when seeking exposure, how do you recommend we approach said influencers, industry leaders, and superiors for coffee chats, lunches? Okay, so here's another resource I'm going to give you, and I'm actually going to type it so that this can also be shared with the audience. But there's a great YouTube video called The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. What you'll be surprised about is that many people who you think are too busy to have lunch or coffee with you are actually waiting for you to ask them to have coffee or lunch with them, because many times you are a breath of fresh air compared to, all of the day in and day out, business challenges they're dealing with. So when they can actually get a real tone of the organization and speak with someone who's coming to get their expertise, one, it is so flattering to them, but two, it shows that this employee is highly engaged and someone who's taking the time to proactively manage their career. So if you have not had a chance to ever do this, start with 5 people who you want to connect with, and just send 5 quick emails asking if you can get 30 minutes on their calendar. What's going to happen is that they're more than likely going to refer you to their assistant to set it up, and it may not be scheduled in the next week or two. It may take 3 to 4 weeks for you to actually have the meeting, but what you're going to find is that this person's going to be engaged for your meeting and really excited to talk to you. But you need to come prepared. Don't just come to this meeting and just think that you're just having coffee. No, come prepared with the ask, and come prepared really wanting to show what you are doing for the organization, and then how you need some additional help from the organization for your long-term career goals. Okay, and I think I have time for one more. So what is the best way to gain exposure in an industry you're not in but want to be in? Great question for the individual who asked that question. So one thing that I always tell people, it is so strategic to not just be an expert in one area, but to really have, a balanced approach to your career when it comes to operating your career like a Fortune 100 company. Fortune 100 companies have all these different divisions, whether it's finance, marketing, the legal team, et cetera. And what you want to do if you want to gain exposure in another area is that you want to access some of your business resource groups. You want to go and volunteer on a committee that you absolutely have no expertise on, because it's a safe space for you to learn. Because when you go and you volunteer at a business resource group, and some organizations call them employee resource groups, basically you're able to give your time to this organization, but you're also able to learn. And so you can take those key learnings back to your team and then volunteer to do what's called a short-term assignment. And a short-term assignment is when you volunteer to do another job in another part of the organization while also still doing your full-time job, but you're able to gain those valuable skills so that when opportunities become available, say if you're in finance and you're trying to get to marketing, when those opportunities in marketing become available, they won't just look at you and say, "No, Donna, you're all fine. You're just all finance. There's no way I can bring you over to marketing." What they'll see is like, "Oh, Donna, we see that you just did a short-term assignment with our team. We definitely want to consider you and see how we can utilize your skills for our team." So I know that we're up at 2:58. So I am actually going to turn it back over to Mike. And what if you did not get your question answered today, I highly recommend that you reach out to me. I have my email address there at monica-motivates.com, and I'll be happy to answer your question offline. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you all today. I love all the work that the National Black MBA Association continues to do with empowering visionaries, and I just wish each of you all the best of luck in this 2019 as you elevate your brand and continue to treat your brand like a Fortune 100 company.
All right, and Monica, thanks for a tremendous presentation. On behalf of NBMBAA, we would like to thank all of you for your participation today in the audience. This will conclude our program for today. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.